again. So,
yeah, well, there's no doubt. I mean, we're live here, Rolland Market Mashup for our YouTube channel. Mike, what's going on?
I'm just getting my coffee. I'll be right there.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, yesterday, obviously, anyone who tunes into the markets knows that it was a complete bloodbath, and who knows if it's over yet. You know, the day before was kind of also sloppy, and the day before that was sloppy too. It's been a choppy couple weeks, and
yeah, we've given up almost 2,000 points this week, 1,800 or so.
Yeah, the Dow was down, I think, 900 points yesterday. S&P shaved off over 3%. NASDAQ was down over 3%. It was definitely a brutal day, but I think today is really the big day that everybody's looking at for several reasons. You got so many big cap companies that have their earnings today. Most of the big ones have their earnings today. And, you know, as far as the companies that have been reporting, for the most part, it's been a lot of beats. Like we said yesterday, obviously, it seems like the reason the market's down is a mixture of everything going on with the virus peaking or spiking again. Obviously, the election uncertainties. There's all these things happening, and markets don't like when there's unknowns. But there are some silver lines in the markets. Let's just dive into it because there's a bunch of stocks that we cover on the show all the time that are moving like crazy today.
Yeah, Dan, congrats on Pinterest.
Yeah, huge move on Pinterest.
Pinterest is flying. They're up 31%.
Literally was I almost pulled the trigger on that yesterday too. I'm so aggravated.
EIN
down 5%.
Yeah, it's impressive because, you know, and Dad, maybe you could talk a little bit more about this, but lately I've just been thinking how ridiculous it is that companies have to report every 3 months because when you think about it, nothing changes in 3 months. So when you look at Pinterest, they did the exact same thing last quarter. I think they were actually up 40% last quarter, and I think nested around like 52. And then, you know, we're kind of in this neutral zone for the last few months. It didn't really shock me much that Pinterest had a really good quarter. And yeah, Pinterest is obviously up huge, and Snapchat's continuing to go up big because of it. And now what's happening is you're getting a nice bounce back from yesterday in Twitter. Twitter's up nice today, and Facebook's up nice today. So Facebook and Twitter both have their earnings this afternoon. And, you know, obviously, I actually think it's not going to go that well because I think Snapchat set the bar so high now for these companies so Snapchat came out and they reported a quarter saying that they increased their revenues by 50-something%, which is huge for a company like that. And now I think the bar is set extremely high for Facebook and for Twitter. And I don't think
it's set. I think it's all relative, though. Snapchat, they're at a much different level of
but still, I think the bar is set right now high in general for technology. And, you know,
Facebook
Rolland said it best yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught his comments like around 2 p.m., but it definitely was kind of chilling to hear what he said. He basically said, at this point, if you're going to see the markets bottom out and rally from here, it's going to be strictly because human behavior repeats itself. Nothing to do with valuations, which are completely disconnected from reality right now. He's like, the question is, are people going to come in and naturally see stocks down 10 to 20% and buy because they always have, and that's just what happens. And that's where you kind of look at today as a big day because obviously Microsoft had a quarter similar last quarter and they didn't really get rewarded for it, but I'm sure, you know, if the market wants to go back to all new highs, Microsoft's gonna go with it. They've gotten several upgrades in the last 24 hours. I just think that if you get any sort of disappointment out of Facebook, it could be kind of not that great for them.
I don't see how you could see a disappointment from Facebook with what I think they've set themselves up for a massive beat here off of their small businesses, unlike Google, who we spoke to yesterday, who doesn't even know, they have their reps not even understanding business models that they're trying to sell on the phone. Facebook's done the exact opposite. They've actually catered to any type of business in a much, and Dan, we can attest to that. You run our Facebook ads. It's become way easier to be able to run different types of ads, and they've done a phenomenal job, I think, with these communities and these different groups, which every day I'm on these for our business. It's unreal the engagement level on another level that this lockdown's created for Facebook. And when I say that, before the pandemic, these groups were basically nothing. Like literally no one even paid any attention to them. I think that is big.
Yeah, but I think when we're talking about earnings, there's not. I don't know if there's a reevaluation going on with where stocks should be, but I think that's what Mohammed was talking about.
Well, yeah, we're talking about Facebook though. That's not a
they're,
normal.
they're all in the same boat. You take Microsoft as the bellwether. The PE ratio is higher than it's ever been, and it may need 2-3 quarters of really phenomenal earnings just to catch up to where the stock is.
I think these PE ratios have to start being looked at differently. We keep
they
going
are
over these.
being looked at differently.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, you're in the same boat as a guy like Thomas Lee, who's always on CNBC, who says the same thing, that, technology in general needs to be valued way higher than it's ever been.
These guys all contradict each other. That's why I stopped watching them.
But, I mean, let's move on to some other names here. Pinterest was yesterday. They obviously had a great quarter. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Isn't Etsy today?
Etsy was yesterday, and I saw they had a little sell. I actually haven't been following it. Let's see. Yeah, they're down a little. I think they had a beat. This is a company that needs to not only beat, they need to absolutely destroy. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, right now, they're not really selling off much. They're getting a bunch of target raises this morning, a bunch of buy maintains. But
well, I'm curious to see their next quarter when you have all these new users of theirs from mask buys. Are they going to be sticking around like I'm thinking and using them for numerous things?
Well, I think
459 mil to 513 mil is where they're seeing their quarter four. So, that shows the size of Etsy in general.
And Spotify's down big this morning.
Spotify, I did not see if they reported. I did see.
Yeah, they missed. Earnings missed.
Well, I'm glad I sold the 280 calls on that one.
I'm buying more of that today. I couldn't care less about that.
Don't be in a hurry. It usually takes a few days.
And Shopify had an earnings beat. They doubled their revenue, which is just insane to me. And let's keep in mind that Shopify just partnered up with TikTok to bring the whole on-app experience to be able to have advertisers do direct shopping. So Shopify is just an absolute beast. I think there's a lot of people that don't quite understand it, and they're kind of behind the scenes. They power small businesses. They allow, like Mike, when Corey was talking about the merchandise thing for our company, Shopify was one of the vendors that could power that and make it possible. So anybody that's trying to get involved in this whole direct-to-consumer game,
they get rid of friction completely.
They get rid of friction, and, they've had an insane run-up. Their stock was trading over 1,000. Their stock was trading at 300 during the pandemic. I think it got down into the high 200s, but the company's absolutely killing it. And I think Amazon's going to be the one out of the big mega cap tech stocks that impresses people enough to get a lift in their stock. I just think they have so much potential in the near term ahead of them with what they could do with logistics and lowering the delivery times and making same day delivery way bigger, which would make people shop way more frequently on Amazon. And when I look at just the near term potential for the big cap tech stocks, to me, they're the ones that could still evolve way more. And I think they could really excite people with what they say today. So,
by the way, quietly, Amazon is hiring 100,000 people for the holidays. So
which is impressive. Shows,
the demand is just astronomical.
Well, we see the demand in our markets for delivery in food. So naturally, what do you expect with Amazon at scale?
Yeah, well, I bought some more Amazon yesterday. I've owned it for years, and I just think that on any weakness, it's a good name to add to. We'll see what happens today with their earnings. Even if they don't, these companies, I also think like Microsoft, if you really look at what they said, it seems like they were trying to kind of ease expectations and set themselves up for a great quarter next quarter.
And that's part of what these guys' jobs are on the quarterly.
For sure. And it makes sense. Like when you
have to be on every 3 months, you want to tame expectations all the time. The problem is that the market gets used to different CFOs doing that. So they know the companies that are going to underplay the outlook. It's a psychological game. Ford is another one that came out yesterday, which
and
another great number. It's based on the truck that you've been talking about, Dan. That's where they really, and that stock's where, 803 now?
803 yesterday. I think it got high as like 822 after hours. So it wouldn't shock me if, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if you see the market completely flush out here and then maybe get a rally in the afternoon. Anything wouldn't shock me. Penn also had their earnings this morning, and they beat their profits by 93% expectations. We'll see what happens with the stock. It's up
That's
a little.
awesome.
I'm thinking back to a few days ago when Boyd Gaming beat their earnings in the morning, and their stock was up pre-market in the first hour of trading and closed the day down like 5%. I don't know if we're going to see Penn do the same thing. Obviously, Penn is way off its highs, but in saying that, it's gone on such an epic rally since not only – I'm almost discontinuing what happened in February when Penn got down to 375. But if you just take away the pandemic and you look at where the stock was right after they announced the Barstool deal, which was before anyone knew that they were going to launch a betting app, so that's kind of irrelevant. But they were in the high 30s, and then they got as high as like the mid 70s.
It's healthy what they're doing. This is what I wanted to see. This I added a little more Penn yesterday. I needed to see this to be back in those stocks. So I'm in both of them. I'm pumped that I didn't go ham weeks ago. Learned my lesson from a few months ago on that one. And now, at good average price positions.
Yeah.
And how about Zillow, Dan? I added to that position yesterday.
Which one?
What?
Zillow, it's at 90 right now.
It fell under 90 yesterday.
Yeah, they obviously had their earnings coming up, I think, in 2 weeks.
Next week.
Next
Friday, I think.
What stock?
Zillow. ZG.
Beyond also has their earnings coming up, I believe, on Monday.
ZG is a big Gene Munster stock for a big long-term winner. Short-term, he doesn't know, though, but long-term, he thinks.
Like Leon always says, buckle up.
He will.
Buckle up is definitely the word for a lot of names.
He said about this specific quarter, he was like, yeah, I could see them either being up 25% or down 5%. That made me want to kind of go hard on them.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know either. Another stock that he's behind and got behind before they ever went public. And to me, I was hearing him talk about them, and it seems kind of interesting. The ticker is U, and the stock is Unity Software. And it's one of these like video game making companies, but apparently they're more so focused on like the future of it all with virtual reality and augmented reality. And they make a lot of the video games, and they recently went public. They're trading they just got over 100, it looks like, so 191. It's a stock that I just added to my watch list today. I've yet to I don't really know that much about them, but I'm going to start just watching them a little and just seeing what happens. I don't know. Another stock that's recently gone public that I think long term is going to be a rocket ship, and even short term, Palantir, PLTR. And this is another one of these cloud software logistic companies that has been a fun stock to trade, but I also think it could be a good long-term hold. So that would be a good one to follow. Good names moving around today.
What do you think of the security companies with the election coming and the possibility of rioting afterwards?
Oh, like physical security companies?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of like wealthy people in New York are hiring security firms, kind of like what you see in South Africa, where people are. I don't know of any offhand that, just do that kind of stuff.
Smith & Wesson comes to mind, guns, naturally with security.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably have a portfolio of stocks that play into that just when something like this is going to happen.
Well, also you have to keep in mind the whole fear with the Second Amendment with Biden. If he ends up in office, you wonder if people are thinking, let me stockpile guns and hide them.
Yeah, the only thing with that is I feel like those people have already loaded up to the
Ed,
raft.
you keep saying that. You see how many new gun owners there are in the country?
Well, let me ask you: is it the opposite too, where they're talking about banning guns, making guns illegal? Is there a possibility that like a Smith and Wesson completely sells off?
No way. No.
Yeah.
I think the opposite. Pent up demand. You have people being like, I need to protect myself from this craziness. I might even have to get a gun.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Dad, what other names are you looking at this morning? I feel like there's other stocks that have had their
Well, it's hard to think of names to add to, but I did buy some Spirit Airlines yesterday. I feel like, I've been playing Boeing all the time, and I did buy a little Boeing under 150 yesterday. But you get a lot more bang for your buck on some of these travel stocks. And the reason I think I like Spirit, if you're going to pick an airline, is that they really don't have a big business traveler. And that's definitely not coming back in any large way for a long time. So the symbol is SAVE. And when that group does go up, that stock percentage-wise usually has a much bigger move.
Bob, what about Sabre trading at 6.25 right now? Thank God I've been out of that name.
Yeah, we're out of that one, and that's another one.
So honestly, playing a good level here.
It's in the same category as Booking.com.
Yeah, is Booking a good value right now with all Europe shut down?
Eventually, it's going to be good. It's a matter of waiting it through. It gets hit hard on any negative European.
Well, they're all shut down now, so it'll be curious to see if that's just for the week or if that's going to be.
Well, look, these stocks will move as soon as someone starts talking about the vaccines again instead of the shutdown. And
yeah,
right
it's funny even hearing Fauci say, yeah, we should, we could have something in January. Who knows, though? My guess, I think we're going to have something as soon as the new term starts.
Well,
I really
it doesn't matter what the speculation is. As far as these stocks are concerned, when the announcements come out, then they'll move, or anticipation by a day or two that some announcement's coming. And look, there's a possibility that Pfizer makes an announcement that the vaccine doesn't work.
Royal Caribbean reported $1 billion loss for the third straight quarter.
Must be nice being able to report $1 billion loss and still be in business.
Well, look, all those stocks are going to have big losses, and it's a matter of whether or not they have enough cash to take them through to the other side. And, a lot of them have already arranged all that. And that's what the problem was in March, getting the financing to get through it all. I think most of these can last quite a long time. So,
another stock that I thought was sold off so hard yesterday for all the wrong reasons was Callaway. I know I texted you guys. The ticker's ELY. So they bought all of Topgolf, and they announced it yesterday. I think they had a small ownership in it.
I love it.
Yeah, and their stock sold off by like 24%. I don't know if they just got caught off in the market sell-off or if people think Topgolf's a bad business because of the pandemic right now. But
Topgolf something in a way like PLAY?
No. Well, yes, in terms of no. Here's where it is the same. Yes, it's an in-person experience, but they're killing it. And you drive by those things right now, and in any state where they're allowed to be open, they're open and they're killing it.
As they should be. It's a driving range.
Topgolf is awesome, and people love it.
Yeah, I've been.
And I think they're at the beginning of something special with Topgolf.
Agreed, Dan. I think that's a great buy. I'm going to be looking at scooping some of that today.
Well, you know what I like about Topgolf is that there's going to be a lot of areas where buildings are going out of business or they need to convert.
Yeah.
Topgolf is a perfect kind of business that could go in and possibly, open up where a mall was. Or
well, also keep in mind, Dan, you're a big golfer. The simulators, who knows how many they have in their wing already that they can kind of convert and make shift into their own Topgolf. Something that's already set up.
Yeah, well, as far as the simulators go, there's like some top-notch companies that own that space. But I think where Topgolf has like a really special angle is apparently they own the technology behind the trackers of the balls that allow the whole thing to be possible. And again, when you look at Topgolf and how quick they're expanding, and I don't think they've even started this happen to other countries yet, but Topgolf's a winner. Callaway is
They'll crush in Asia too with the Asian golf scene. I mean, forget it.
Time. So ELY is the ticker.
I like it.
They'll also naturally probably get a look next month, as you know, it's Masters in November. They switched it around.
Love where your head's at there.
Yeah, the sell-off yesterday was insane. I was like, "What is going on?"
I'm going to buy a little of that today.
Well, I mean, maybe the valuation was ridiculous, and that's why it went down that much. But I don't know.
I think there's a little bit of support at 15. That's where it hit and bounced off yesterday. It's hit it a few times. And, this is kind of like a boring moving stock
until it's not. When you start talking about Topgolf.
Actually, it's really not. I'm looking at the chart.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is far from boring. This stock's up almost 400%.
Not boring at all.
What show is in that?
The chart's up almost 400%, but again, it's I don't know. On one end, I almost look at everything that happened in February as you almost got to look at levels that are like way above there to look at where it really went, because it was such a blow off bottom that it just I'm not looking at Callaway and thinking to myself like, oh, this company's coming off of $4.75. I'm more looking at it like this company's coming off at 10. I don't know if that's the wrong way to look at it, but it's tough to not look at it that way in my mind. But yeah.
Yeah, and with a lot of the restaurants now closing up in some of these big cities again, and winter coming, is that really does that help Grubhub or not? What do you guys think on that?
Well,
I think they're getting their ass kicked. Personally, I'm not touching that stock. They're literally, anytime I use them, their technology sucks. Their tracking is never right. Uber and DoorDash are killing them across the board.
Yeah, but Uber, you got to worry about the driving.
I don't think so.
I'm not worrying about that. Self-driving's coming soon.
I think Uber's the real play there, because the fact that they're in more than just food delivery is a great bonus for Uber, but they are really the gorilla in that space.
I bought more Uber yesterday, Dan. I'm long 500 shares of the Uber now. I'm loving the levels here because
they make money?
Play the game as long as they need to.
Yeah, that's a company that has so much room to increase their fees, not only on the customer side, but on the they will make money.
And who knows what else they have coming out? It's Uber. They definitely have stuff in the pipelines. Let's be real. They're not going to divulge everything. It's not like they have nothing going on.
Well, I think everyone's waiting to see what California does in the ballot.
Well, yeah, that's going to trigger lobbying, getting self-driving coming way sooner, because the technology is there for it. It's been shelved to try to figure out what to do with all these contractors that need work is the reality.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting for Uber is I keep reading up more on these like Carvana type companies, and the company I brought up last week, like the Lithuanian Motors, that, they're launching that driveway app where they're trying to basically help customers be able to buy a car from their home without ever visiting a dealership. I almost think Uber's got to make an acquisition in that space just to expand on what they're doing. But I think they'll catch on to that and they'll do it. And it's tough to not like Uber.
They can do whatever they want. They're on everyone's digital real estate on their phones. Literally.
There's also there's going to be a day where the pandemic is completely behind us, where people are ordering ride shares again at the same.
You're going to look back at this and be like, how did I not buy Uber during this time? That's what's going to happen.
Speaking of how did I not buy so-and-so at this time, I think another company that at this point you got to kind of start to give a look at is Live Nation, which is LVN.
Which probably right now people are saying
LYN.
LYN now.
Yeah, they should call it Dead Nation at this point. I mean, that thing is.
Again, if you're somebody that believes that at some point there's going to not only be a COVID or a vaccine, but there's also going to be concerts again and events where people are gathering in the masses. This company was killing it pre-pandemic, and they're going to go back to killing it again. There's going to be so much built up demand for this. I can't pull up the chart. Is it not LYN? What is it?
No, it's not
Is
LYN.
it LIV maybe?
LIV. Yeah, Mike. LIV.
No,
Yeah, it's LYV.
LYV.
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, if you're betting on humanity sticking around, that's a great play right now. It's either the world's ending or people are going to at some point get back to being people. Like, that's how you have to think of this thing.
I mean, right now it's so difficult to think of going to a concert.
Yeah, but Dad, that's what Dan makes a great point. This is the exact time to get the best value on these things where it looks like there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
See, to me, that's another travel stock. It's the same.
Definitely. It's the same category.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, call it a Booking.com, a Save,
but
a Live Nation.
Weeks like this is when you want to jump on this. It's cold weather, the virus upticks. And when you really look through this, any way you want to, whatever side you're on in the election, anything you look at these numbers with the death rates here, this is not February all over again. There's way more clarity on this is not as deathly as people assumed maybe 9 months ago. So that in itself, when people look at the data here, should make everyone a bit more comfortable.
Well, I think what has to happen for companies like this and filling stadiums is testing that could really be accurate for someone being able to spread the virus. The moment they take that test, they're either negative or positive. They're not going to get it in 4 days, and they're spreading it like wild, and you can't measure it, which is what people feel like now.
And there's companies working on it, and they're going to come out with it. And these are the companies that are going to continue to dominate when the world's back to normal, that you're able to buy at discounts right now. And that's where, I mean, I know we go back and forth when we have this show every morning talking about stocks of the moment that you could day trade, and then stocks that, you might get rewarded if you sit on for a while. And I think right now we're talking more of the latter. The day trading is what we were talking about more so at the beginning.
Yeah, but when you have the market dropping 1,800 points, you want to be looking for the really good companies that have gotten a big discount to
I
put
had Danny buy some Apple yesterday. I had Danny buy some Apple yesterday.
Yeah, those kind of names. Obviously, Apple's coming out with earnings today, but putting money into the big names right now in this kind of market will pay off at some point. I don't know if it's a month, 2 months, a year, but you usually can't go wrong putting money into those names.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about starting a small position in Tesla today. It's at 40. Well, it just jumped $1. It was at 407. Now it's at 408. Yeah. And I mean, I know there's always the risk it breaks 400 and really flushes out. Seems like, let me pull up the chart here, but I mean, I would just kind of start a small position, but it seems like any time I've done that, I've never really had my chance to add, and the position stayed small. I guess I got to be better about adding to it, but then again, I could see how Tesla could easily come down into the 300 range, which is where I would much prefer to buy it. If the market, it just boils down to whether or not you think that whatever flush out's already happened is over with, or if there's more to come.
Well, I think we have to wait till the election to know. That's part of the problem here. I don't think this is just the virus.
Yeah, well, this morning is definitely a nice opportunity where if you think you got to get out of some names, you're being given another chance. There's no doubt about that. I mean, are you guys buying or selling anything? I know I told you I bought a little Amazon yesterday. I really added a little bit to all my big gorilla names yesterday, but I don't necessarily think yesterday was the bottom.
Now, Fastly had earnings yesterday, right? And they were better than expected after guiding lower. Is that right?
Are you sure?
Yeah, take a look.
I mean, I see that they're up.
Earnings were minus 4 cents with a minus 11 or 12 cents was what was expected.
Listen, I have a big position in Fastly. It's a name that I think long term is going to be very similar to Twilio. I know I talked about this before. This story is so similar to when Twilio lost Uber as a client. It was the best thing that's ever happened to them. And their stock fumbled short term and then went on to just absolutely rip. Twilio is, by the way, it was such a fun stock to watch yesterday because it had one of those great midday reversals where the stock got down to like 78. And then for whatever reason, someone came in and started buying it, and it went all the way up to almost 300 all afternoon long, and almost was responsible for turning around some of the tech stocks yesterday, even though I guess there wasn't much of a turnaround. But there were some stocks that kind of had an afternoon look, like Netflix was trying to go positive. Obviously, DraftKings was green all day and ended up closing in the red again. That stock sucks. I hate DraftKings. I'm so pissed that I own it, but it seems like the selling starting to wind down. They're obviously getting a look this morning, but it's going to be once again. I feel like we're back to pre-Michael Jordan partnership days where it's high 30s. The stock's going to struggle again to get through 40, and every time it does, it's going to be a sell. It sucks. You guys got any final comments here to wrap it up?
Buckle up.
Yeah, be careful and don't go in too big.
Bobby Dalton time. All right, subscribe, Rolland Market Mashup on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and go make some money. Elections 5 days away. Boom,
We
baby.
seem to have more viewers on days where the market is just terrible.
People like chaos. That's in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neo's acting well again.
It always does. I got some moves I think I got to make this morning with some stocks.
You're still live, Dan.
Yeah.